Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending this general session, Life Beyond the Tenure. I am Christine Her from California State University, Sacramento, and also I will be moderating this session. Let me first share my screen with you to see how this session will flow. Okay. So these sessions, firstly, I'm going to introduce our panelists. And also, panel discussions will be happen about 5 agendas about the life beyond the tenures. And also open Q&A for 20 minutes. This session will be like a talk and advice session, sharing panel's experience with audience. And unlike a Zoom webinar, attendees can unmute themselves and ask questions after the discussion when we have Q&A session. So let me first introduce our panelists. Dr. SooCheong Shawn Jang. And Dr. Jang is a full professor at the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management at Purdue University. Dr. Jang has more than 200 published articles in reported top-tier HTM and business journals, and has been recognized as a top-ranked author in HTM academia during the past decade. Dr. Jang is a frequently invited speaker for academic or interdisciplinary research by many universities, as well as international conferences. Let's welcome Dr. SooCheong Jang. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you.
And we have Dr. Sheryl Kline, and Dr. Kline is a Deputy Dean and Aramark Chaired Professor at Department of Hospitality and Sports Business Management at University of Delaware. Before joining University of Delaware, Dr. Kline served as an interim dean and associate dean in the College of Hospitality, Retail, and Sports Management at University of South Carolina. And also Dr. Kline held the position of C. B. Smith Professor and the Director for the Center for Study of Lodging Operations at Purdue University. Let's welcome Dr. Sheryl Kline. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Christine.
Okay. So let's get started our discussions. So for each discussions, I'm going to show you the discussion topic. And our first topic is what tenure means to you. Is tenure a big deal? Why is tenure so important? So the tenure is a unique system which can be found in only particular field like academia. And why is it needed? Once we get into the field of the academia, we heard so many times about tenures. Is it necessary and why it is so important? Dr. Shawn, Jang, would you go first?
Okay. Yes, tenure is important, very important for all of us in this academia. And personally, to me, it was important. But I did not want to set tenure as the goal in my academic career. Instead, I look at tenure as a stepping stone toward a real scholar. So before tenure, I had to meet the requirement in the tenure and promotion guideline of our school. But one of the guidelines was to focus on just a couple of research subject area. And so I had to follow that guideline. Yes, I tried to do that as much. But however, I personally had a broader interest in subjects because of my background, of my undergraduate. Some of you know my background in mechanical engineering, and I did MBA and international market, in international finance. And then I used to be an investment banker for about 10 years. And then my second master's degree is in tourism and hospitality marketing. So I'm trying to interest in both in finance and marketing area and strategic management subjects. But I couldn't do all things together at the same time. So I tried to focus more on certain subjects before tenure. But as you know, the real meaning of tenure is to, I say, safeguard academic freedom, which is, I think, the necessary for all in academic field. So tenure, to me, I felt that I came to have freedom to challenge, for now it's very popular term, which is interdisciplinary research. But in the past, like the year that I got promoted, which is 2008, if you do research broadly, you will be easily criticized, but still the same. But now we have a chance to do interdisciplinary research. I have done that last 10 years after I got tenured, which is combining finance and marketing. I say it's a marketing finance interface, which is another direction, another unique direction that we could open new horizon. So tenure, without tenure, probably I couldn't challenge that new direction. So for me, tenure is quite meaningful and was very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jang. Dr. Kline.
Thanks, Christine. I agree with everything that Shawn said. Tenure is not the beginning, it's not the end. And I look at an academic career as a journey, and tenure is a milestone. And it is a big deal. I mean, don't think it's not. And those of you that are striving to get tenure, I'm sure it really is a big deal in your mind. Before you get tenure, you are working toward what is prescribed in that P&T document. And as Shawn, I think, pointed out aptly, you don't have the freedom to do maybe all the types of research topics that you want to do research on. You really need to think about how can you get tenure? What are those policies? What are those guidelines that are in your tenure and promotion documents that you need to achieve and exceed so that you will get tenure? But once you get tenure, you have freedom to do and pursue research in areas that maybe you couldn't do because of that tenure document that you had to follow. And I think that's the big difference, at least for me, before and after tenure. I also think about tenure as a commitment to the organization where you work. So before you get tenure, it's really all about you trying to work hard to get tenure. And then once you get tenure, it's really about sort of like getting married. And so you're dating for a really long time in the tenure process, right? 6 years. Then you get married to that institution. And now you have a commitment to that institution. You are part of that institution. And you do have academic freedom to do the type of research you want to do, but also freedom to do other things that maybe you couldn't do. One is research topics in areas that you like to pursue, but you can also pursue other interests. You could go into academia. You could become an expert in the teaching area or field. You could become someone who wants to mentor lots of grad students. I mean, I look at Shawn. Shawn is a top-ranked researcher, and he's also known as someone who's a great mentor to graduate students. You can do more of those types of things once you get tenure. You can also say you want to go into administration. I chose to go that route, which you shouldn't do before you have tenure. You should not take on those administrative roles because it'll take you away from what you need to do to get tenure according to the P&T document.
Thank you, Dr. Kline, and for your insight and answers. And let me share my screen again. And our next question is about do's and don'ts. What are common mistakes junior faculty made for tenure preparations? Although we learn from the mistake, but it would be nicer if we can avoid it. So what are common mistakes you observe for junior faculty or any of yours taken before? And also any tips for tenure preparations? Dr. Jang, do you mind that you go first?
Yes, definitely tenure promotion is based on your documents. So preparing your document well that meets requirement is very important. So before you start, I suggest you got this tenure and promotion guideline. Read carefully, sentence by sentence. And if you have any question, you need to clarify all of this with your senior faculty and or department head so that you really understand what this guideline means to you. So before you start, get it and read it carefully. In general, there are three categories. One is research and teaching and services, as you all know. Many people say this way, without great support of research, it's very difficult to get tenured. Even if you have a good research evidence, it is not easy to get tenured without good teaching evaluation. So both teaching and research are equally important in some sense, but research are something make you really up. But teaching is a basic satisfier. So if you're not satisfied this, it's also become a hurdle. So my advice for those who are preparing these documents and also starting your career, early career, thinking about your whole plan. And I think you need to be strategic to be tenured. Many universities give you 5 years, and then you submit your packet, and it will be reviewed. And around the end of your 6th year, and your decision is made about tenured or stay one more year or leave, something like that. So my suggestion is thinking about this research program that you are pursuing. And when you talk with your seniors and or department head, they will share you basic expectations in terms of research paper number and target journals and maybe a rank of journals. And so you need to have clear idea of what to do about that. And then think about your next 5-year plan. Sometimes some university has very strict mid-tenure evaluation during 3rd year. So if that's the case, you have to do full work in first 2 years to pass this mid-tenure evaluation. So you need to be very strategic. Sometimes number is important. At the same time, quality research and publication is important. So maybe we have to do both. We have to do both. And also thinking about your research topics. Again, like I said before, many universities ask you focus a few subject areas so that you also describe who you are as a scholar. And I am this kind of a researcher. I'm focusing on this. You need to specify that before you submit your packet. So you have to plan that in advance to do that research. So number and quality. So what I suggested not to do is don't go too many ways. And then it's very difficult to explain who you are. Teaching. Well, many times we have to prepare new prep as a junior faculty. That's given because you started new career. But thinking about strategically about teaching preparation, it takes a lot of time and efforts. So you need to talk with department head about matching of this teaching subject with your research area. That's really helpful for you and your student as well. So talk with your directors and about the subjects that you're teaching. And then how much you prepare? Again, it's if you really want to make your teaching material perfect, it takes unlimited time, I think. So if you are keep teaching the same subject, try to make your first semester as an experiment, okay? So, and then also save some time for your research. And then your preparation repeatedly help you to make a better piece for next semester or next year. Service area. Again, service is still important because we are expect a good citizen for a department. So at least you need to make a commitment to limited number of committee internally or even at schools. But don't be a too good person so that your time's gone for all this activity for committee. That is not good decision. Save your time for your teaching preparation and research. Service is important. At the same time, saving time, not too much spending time on the service is a good strategy as well. That's my advice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jang. And Dr. Kline, please.
I totally agree with what Shawn just said. And I think I just want to be specific on what I've seen with faculty who did not get tenure, and also some strategies that support exactly what Shawn suggested on what you can do to make sure you're on track to get tenure. People that don't get tenure, and I've been at several institutions, so I've seen this pretty much across all Research One hospitality programs. You really need to focus on your research and have, as Shawn said, quality and quantity. And it's helpful to see other people's documents who went before you. How were they organized? Where did they publish? How many articles did they have? Because you will be compared to the people that came before you, particularly if it was recently, someone who came up the year before, even someone who's going to come up the same year you come up. I think that's helpful to have that understanding. At some institutions, they say you need 10 articles. And if that's the case, you want to make sure you have more. Most of our institutions, we have an A journal list. And some documents say you need to have a sole author publication, or you need to have grants. Make sure you really understand that document. And I always tell people, try to exceed whatever the minimums are, or whatever the person who did before you. So Shawn said, know that document. The people that don't get tenure don't do that, and they wait too long, and they don't follow the advice of their mentor or their department chair. Tenure, as Shawn said, it's about research, teaching, and service. Think of research as the big rock, teaching as the smaller rock, and service as the sand that fits in between it. For teaching, I have seen people not get tenure because they taught too many preps, or they volunteered to teach an extra course. As Nancy Reagan once said, and some of you might be too young to remember this, but just say no. It's okay to say no. You have a plan, you need to be strategic. Focus on your research, then focus on your teaching, keep your preps to a minimum. And I always like to improve my course every year. Most of your institutions have some type of department that helps you be a better teacher. Meet with them and focus on maybe one course each semester that you're going to work on to improve, keeping an eye on the teaching evaluations. By the way, teaching evaluations are not the be-all, end-all of how to evaluate your teaching. You can say you've improved your course, you've tried new pedagogies or new technology, particularly in light of what we've all been through with teaching online. Those are all things that are important to put in your document, so you're not just relying on student teaching evaluations, which we know through research is biased. And in particular, and we have a lot of young women online here, it's biased against young women and minorities. So you need to put other things in your document to booster up what you've done for teaching. For service, I can't stress enough, be strategic. As Shawn said, don't go on every committee, but really think about what committee you want to go on. I suggest to young faculty, go on a committee that doesn't meet a lot, but has members that are full professors. Because when you go up for tenure, you want those full professors to know who you are and not just a paper. So Hong Soon, when you go up for tenure, you want to make sure that you've been on a committee so those full professors know not just your name, but you as a person. And maybe you get a chance, before or after the meeting, talk about your research, talk about the things that interest you. It does matter. People are people, and it's helpful if they know you as a person in addition to reading your research. And finally, don't do things that are extraneous or not pertinent to that tenure document. You shouldn't be doing study abroad. You should not be taking on administrative roles. And if you have a good department chair, he or she will protect you from that. And if you don't, you need to protect yourself. And last but not least, I see people who get tenure with flying colors are very disciplined. There is only so much time in the day and in the week. Really carve out that time to do your research. It's hard to do. You get seduced away very easily to do other things like spending a lot of time preparing your classes. Don't do that. Spend enough time to do a good job in the classroom, but really take time to focus on your research. One of my mentors, Barbara Almanza, who just retired from Purdue, her strategy was the day she didn't teach, which was on Wednesday, she took the entire day of Wednesday, went to Panera Bread, and sat and did research all day. And she didn't answer her phone. She didn't look at email. And she was one of the most productive faculty that I had the pleasure to work with. And that was a strategy where she carved out time just for research. And it's very important that you do that. That worked for her. For me, I did it at night. So I was most productive in the evening. So when my kids were asleep and my husband was asleep, 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, every night I did my research. So that worked for me. You'll find out what works for you.
Thank you, Dr. Kline. Okay, so finally, I got tenured. Welcome to the new world. Is it a guaranteed heaven? So finally, after 5 to 6 years or more hard work done, I received a tenure. Then what happened? Is it a guaranteed heaven or not? Please share with us your experience and what kind of mindset would you recommend us to have after tenure? Dr. Kline.
Oh, yeah,
Okay. Well, first of all, it's not heaven, but it is a great feeling. There won't be a marching band that comes in when you get tenure. It's sort of like you get this letter from the provost and you open it and you kind of expect, like flowers or fireworks to come out. It doesn't, but it's a really good feeling. You've accomplished something that's a big deal. But now what's next? And I think it's very important to take that semester after you get that letter, right, Christine? You're going to get that letter soon. Take that semester and really think about, what do I want to do next? And I'm a big proponent of goal setting. And I think you should sit down and start to write in your research, what do you want to be known for? Is it like Shawn said, doing interdisciplinary research? For me, it was to branch out, and I focused on research in training and development in lodging. And I really wanted to explore other areas of research. And you have freedom to do that, but don't stop doing research. Some people stop and get stagnated, and then you don't go forward. So you want to have a research agenda with goals. You also want to think about, where do you want to make your mark? Do you want to go into administration? Do you want to make the institution a better place? Is that something in the way that you want to give back? Do you want to mentor grad students? Do you want to expand your research into working with teams of researchers? And what our colleagues in the sciences do is have labs to do research. I've seen a lot of colleagues of ours that do that, and they get known in a certain area and have graduate students that follow them. Do you want to start doing study abroad and all those wonderful things that professors get to do? When you think about it, I think we have the best jobs in the world, right? We get to inspire young minds. We get to explore ideas and write down and do research in topics that really excite us. But really think about how you can build your reputation, make your mark. And also, I think it's important to give back in a way that you can give back. And everybody's different. You'll find your own way, and it's okay if it changes as you go along the way. For me, my goals were I sort of fell into administration and liked it and decided I wanted to work up to the dean's level. Being a provost, I have no interest in, but being a dean, I did, or being a department chair and dean. For me, I wanted to do research in a field that helped women in hospitality, and I felt I couldn't do that before tenure. So now I have a research stream about mentorship and how women can develop into leaders. Could not do that before tenure because I was focusing on lodging related things. And the other thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to become a full professor and a named professor. Not sure why, but that was a goal of mine. So I looked at, well, what does it take to be a named professor? What does it take to be a full professor? So again, I was working toward a document, but you'll see, to become a full professor, you have to get an international reputation in an area that you do research in. You have a little bit more freedom in the topics and research that you work in. And look at that document at your institution. If that's what you want to be, a full professor, again, be strategic, figure out how to do that and work toward that. But decide, where do you want to make your mark? What do you want to be known for? I think that's really what you need to do.
Thank you, Dr. Kline and Dr. Jang.
Yes, Sheryl explained everything in detail very well, so I totally agree with her opinion about this. But one thing I'd like to share is my experience. Again, if you say, is tenure really means guaranteed heaven? It sounds to me, you stay as an inactive. Once you promote it, you become a associate professor. But if you feel just, okay, I'm now in heaven, then that means you being inactive. But thinking about your life after that, life is very long. So you want to retire as an associate professor? Maybe not. Or maybe it's good. If your decision is on that, fine. But still, we have to think about the next step. Mostly full professor, right? Yes. And like Sheryl mentions, the basic requirement for most of university is you must be a nationally or internationally known scholar. Then how is question? Right? So my choice was, after being tenured, I tried to be more active, involved in like activities at national, international conferences, just like you. And also try to be active and to contact with known scholars. That way, I was intending to let them know me and my research and my intention as well. And also, international connection is important for me in order to become an international scholar. So I have been involved in TOSO and APTA, Asia Pacific Tourism Association. So since 2008 to 2010, I've been organizing committees, organizing conferences and international conferences. So that way, I had a more opportunity to contact with known scholars so that we could collaborate through those opportunities. And sometimes they visit us and I visit them. And also I work with their students and they work with my students together. So that kind of co-work is possible through these activities. So I think this conference involvement is very, very important for many, many scholars who get tenured. And even thinking about journal, people love to submit their paper to the journal, but hate to review papers because too much. I know that. But still, if you have a willingness to serve for this academic journal, be loyal to a few journals and talk with the editor and talk with other editorial board members And then you could be invited as a one of editorial board members probably at top tier journals. That is another way, let your names known. And also that way you help this community and community success. So next, you got tenured, yes, welcome. But of course, it's not just heaven. You have just a little bit more freedom to do your research. And then you have maybe more opportunity, get exposed to other opportunity in down the road. So yes, enjoy being tenured, but at the same time, remain active. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jang. And our next question is, I kind of combined our first question and fifth questions. So life planning after 10 years, how is career and life planning different before and after 10 years? Is there any change regarding the approach toward your life and the work? And also our fifth question is post-tenure pathway. What can be the next best move? This might be a very hard question as everyone's interests and expertise are different, but based on your observations and experiences, what would you advise us about post-tenure pathway and life planning? And Dr. Kline, would you go first?
So I think it's a path, and just like any journey, you should get a map out and pick some targets or places where you want to go. And take your time trying to figure that out. I think I alluded to that before. It's freedom. Shawn said that, I'll repeat that. You have more freedom to do what you want, but with freedom also comes responsibility. And, you didn't go to heaven. When you go to heaven, you die. You don't want to die. You want to keep moving forward. So pick your path carefully and think about where you want to go with your newfound freedom, because there's lots of great possibilities. And the second part of the question is, what's your next best move? I would say keep doing your research, keep moving with your research forward, get yourself known for a particular area or two. So don't let that stop. That should definitely be part of your next move. But then think about where you want to invest your time and energy. But you also might want to take a vacation, right? If you think about it, we have the longest probation of any industry. Most people, when they get a job, it's 90 days probation, and then they have their job. For us, it's 6 years, and then you either get tenure and you're there, or you don't, you have to leave, you lose your job in a year. So don't forget to celebrate a little bit as well.
Thank you, Dr. Kline and Dr. Jang.
Yes, I think after tenure, important thing is to find out who you are and what you really want to achieve, what you really like to do. I mean, this is a fundamental question. For me, the reason that I changed my job from good money-making job, which is investment banker, to professor, is because I want to have more time with my will, maybe more time with family. Yes, I was so satisfied with the money that I made before, but for 10 years, think you have to get up very early in the morning. Sometimes you have a conference call internationally, like over midnight. It's very common. Sometimes you have only a few hours to sleep, and on and on and on. Even during your break, the vacation period, you still have to report something. So there's not much free time. So I guess I was exhausted. So I was thinking, what is my next step at that point? Maybe it's good to have a job that provide me more time. And so I was look around, and I was talking with friends and peoples, and then guide me, maybe professor job is most appropriate for you if that's the case. So I was thinking about that, but my age was already around the end of 30, so I was kind of hesitating. My family, my wife said, "Are you serious?" So I was not quite sure at that time when I made a decision, because I have to take care of my family. I had a small baby at that time. So, well, where to go? But I was very brave at that time. Okay, let's do. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's do it. So I chose this academic track and take doctoral program, and then I finished my degree around slightly over 40. So at the point that I was having a new job, which is assistant professor at Kansas State University. Good job, good position, nice place. But still, I was on a tenure track, which is another battle. I felt it was like uphill battle because, oh, you have to do this. It's too much. Unlike my expectation, if I had a professor job, I have only 2 subjects or 3 subjects to teach, like 6 hours and 9 hours per week. All the other time is mine. Wow, it may be great job. Yes, it is great job, but my misunderstanding of tenure track, period. So luckily I went over this step, and then I have freedom, I have more time. I'm still busy, but still all this decision that I made is up to me. Some activity, I don't have to do it, but I do it because I like it. So now we are in the stage where you think of your life satisfaction. And what is my life satisfaction? What's a driver? Driver for me, find out something new, which is my research outcome, and share this with other scholars, talking with research idea with my students, guiding my doctoral students, and educate them become a professor. All this is much, much valuable than just money making. So we are having a great job, best job in the world. That's my definition. So what's next? Well, totally up to you. If you really like, is really driver your happiness is research, yes, keep doing it. If your happiness is really in contributing to local community, yeah, you can find a lot of opportunity with your specialty. And teaching undergraduate students and educate them in a great person, great citizen, you can do it. You have a lot of students with you, right? So all these are up to you. So it's subjective decision. There's no one pathway. There are many, many opportunities and different type of path. But once you choose it, do your best and try to find fun time as much. Why? Because this is not the end of career. Like I said before, life is long. Let's say you retire, I don't know, maybe 65 or 70, still you have long years, right? And then you have a lot of opportunity to contribute to the society and help students. A lot of different opportunity. So what's the issue after that? A certain point, let's say you become full professor. Can you maintain your passion on that track, on that path? It's totally up to your interest. If that is really interest you, I guess you can maintain that level of passion. If you take that with low motivation or just forced by somebody to choose it, then your motivation or passion level declining over time, so that it is very difficult to control yourself and manage yourself. So thinking about whole career path until your retirement. What you really like it? Is it a certain area, research, or special subjects of research, or guiding and teaching for students, undergraduate students, or working with local business person for them to be successful business entrepreneur? all these up to you, and that's going to be opportunity for you. Hope you take a right path for you. So subjective decision for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jang. And I have the last question. So it is a kind of summary. 3 keywords for planning life beyond tenure. So Dr. Jang, would you mind you go first? Your 3 keywords. You are muted.
Yes. Right. So 3 keywords. Not easy to get this 3, but thinking about beyond tenure, that's not the end. That's starting for a new stage. So still, we need to seek a growth. That growth could be in terms of academic depth, or in terms of actual contribution to the community. And maybe some of you have now time to study something new. Like these days, people talk about big data analysis. That was a quite new term that I studied like just a few years ago. And you maybe have to study new things like Pythons and SQL and all these new things that get you grow. Second thing I would like to say is maintaining passion that I mentioned before. It's not easy. So again, once you find out something that you really satisfy, I think that is the one way to maintain this passion regarding that research topic, regarding your pathway. Lastly, but not least, I say work-life balance. This life is marathon. So we have to maintain our pace. We're not sprinter. So working hard is important. That much important thing. Take rest. You have had a normal life, maybe friends, maybe family, so that you can maintain your mental health, so that you achieve your ultimate goal as a professor. So 3 things: growth, maintaining passion, work-life balance. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Jang. And Dr. Kline, what is your keyword?
Shawn, I'm glad you didn't have 3 words, because I was like narrowing it down to 3 sentences. I was no way I could do this in 3 words. So I've got 3 sentences. First is have career goals. So after tenure, really think about what are your goals? And they could be a variety of goals in different areas, but really set those targets and then shoot for them. Next is if you're at a Research 1 institution, focus on your research, continue to focus on that and build your reputation. If you're at Sacramento State or a teaching institution, focus on your teaching and build your reputation. Whatever that boulder is at the institution that you're at, be good at it, continue to constantly improve and build your reputation in that. And finally, and I think I'm echoing what Shawn said, create a life for yourself and follow what you're passionate about. And if that means spending time with your family, and I know for a lot of women, we didn't talk on this, but having a family, having children, getting tenure, that's really tough. That's hard to do. And we think about, do I want to have kids before tenure? Should I wait till after tenure? And I can tell you, there's no perfect answer to that, but really figure out how you want to live, and both, at work and at home, and at what your interests are, and feed those passions, because you'll be a happier person if you do.
Thank you, Dr. Kline and Dr. Jang. I hope this session is helpful for all of us for preparing our post-tenure life or tenure preparation. And thank you again, all the panelists and then attendees for joining us today.